let's roll our segue wheel for our next story.
I don't need a translator from King Charles. I do need one in Scotland, though.
Okay, now you have to tell me a joke about Dutch politics. Good luck. Might have to use Google for that one.
My old standby jokes. Dutch politics is like, I can compare it to something and make a joke. Let me get some paper.
This is the Dutch election is going to be happening on October 29th, so Wednesday actually, not Tuesday. And AP News has a story here from Mike Porter. I guess more of a, I'm not sure if this is like a Dutch, who's Mike Porter? Is this a Dutch perspective? Yes, okay, he is a Dutch man. He's a reporter in the Netherlands who covers international courts in The Hague and Dutch politics, and he's been there. He looks like he could be a Dutch man. So this is a Dutch perspective, or at least a person living in The Hague for 30 years perspective on the Dutch elections which are coming up. This is coming out of Haarlem, of all places. Haarlem, the Netherlands. Not Harlem, New York City. Halwasha Hamzad wants the Dutch election to not be about migration. I do too. I also want that. But about tackling the chronic housing shortages in the Netherlands. I think most of people can agree with this. Can we stop having a housing shortage? For Danielle Verhouwen, it's about putting our people first. Their opposing views sum up the two of the key issues in campaigning for October 29th's election for all 150 seats in the Dutch Parliament's Legislative House of Representatives. There are also echo debates about migration across Europe as right-wing politics gain support yet again. Far-right anti-Islam lawmaker Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom, known by its Dutch acronym PVV, swept the shock victory in 23 on a pledge to drastically rein in migration, and he didn't do shit. He had triggered the downfall of the subsequent four-party coalition government in June by withdrawing his lawmakers from the cabinet in a dispute over implementing his crackdown. As anyone who's followed Dutch politics or lives in the Netherlands for their entire life was not surprised that yet again, Geert Wilders was not able to a government. This time around, Wilders' campaign pledge is a total halt to asylum seekers. That is against human rights. Good luck. An analysis of the party's election manifestos by the Dutch Order of Lawyers said that such a policy would breach international treaties. We have too many foreigners, too many asylum seekers, too much Islam, and far too many asylum seeker centers. Caring about fellow human beings. Can't we just go back to slave trading, where we just sold people as money? Wilders' manifesto says, what he casts as the open border policy, hello, welcome to the EU, of his political rivals, totally destroying our country. What's destroying our country is making everyone hyper-focused on immigration, when there's people who don't have houses, there's people who healthcare is bad, other things. Running an actual government, that's what's hurting Dutch people in the country, not having a proper government running. Wilders' party leads polls as the voting day nears, but even if he manages to win again, he is unlikely to manage to piece together a coalition or running government, because he's never done that in the history of his existence. Because many other mainstream parties have ruled out working with him. Yeah, he doesn't take any compromises in how Dutch politics works. It's this thing called, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it's polder democracy. So think of it as, we could all drown tomorrow, so we better work together and make compromises so that we make sure, above all things, Dutch people aren't drowning in floods, okay? If I can paraphrase what polder a democracy is. If you have a guy who does not want to make any compromises and work together with the other parties, which there are like 30 of, there's 30 other parties here in the Netherlands, you will never run a government. It will just not happen. So yeah, that's why they've ruled out working with him. You can't work with him. He does not allow you to work with him. You do what he wants as some sort of, I guess, under his tyranny, his dictatorship of how he thinks the country should be run. And if you don't agree with him, he's gonna leave and huff and puff and, you guys aren't working with me, so I'm gonna leave. Take that. Congratulations. Now we can have a working government. Other more mainstream parties have also included moves to cut migration in their manifestos, as the issue cuts across political fault lines, only because people like Geert Wilders have been telling you that it matters when it doesn't matter. Violent protests against new asylum seeker centers have broken out in recent months in towns and villages across the Netherlands, with protesters lighting flares and sometimes waving a tricolour flag that was adopted by Dutch Nazi sympathizers around World War II. Wilders says he's opposed to violence, but he doesn't say he was opposed to Nazis. That's the first thing I would say. I'm opposed to Nazis and violence. Hamzad is an Afghan-born educator and a beneficiary of long-standing Dutch hospitality to asylum seekers that has taken a hit in recent years. She fled the Afghan capital, Kabul, as a child and eventually settled in the historic city close to Amsterdam, Haarlem. In near-fluent Dutch, she identifies herself now as a proud resident of Haarlem, where she works in elementary education and is a municipal representative for the Green Left, the party that has joined forces with the Labour Party to present a united center-left bloc at the election. Of course, Green always gets votes from all of the students for the most part, though I'm sure there's some students who don't. Hamzad argues that people being forced to sleep in cars and families having to wait for years for social housing are far more pressing issues than reining in on migration. And she doesn't mean people, immigrants. She means all the people, right? There are people who can't get houses who were born in this country, right? It's been an issue for like 10 years now. When I moved here as a student, there was a housing crisis for students. Like they had nowhere to live. I'm going to University of Amsterdam and I'm sleeping on a bench outside the school because there's no houses. And
also, they have a vacant commercial property. To me, is the solution.
But the issue is nobody, including the government, is funding new housing to be built. There's a bunch of bureaucracy and red tape that you have to go through to get new houses built. Because there's plenty of land. I'm not like this is the densest country in Europe, maybe even the world. It's definitely in the top 10. But it's not like there isn't any land anywhere. Like, I mean, there's tons of fields all around me. Fair enough, they're owned by farmers, but my village itself has bought land from the local, the kind of local business in my village is a greenhouse. They make flowers and stuff, and they sold some of the greenhouse land away so that you could build more houses there. And but it has taken years to actually start building the houses there because of the bureaucracy. She says the housing crisis isn't caused by New Netherlanders, but instead by years of right-leaning ruling coalitions.
Exactly.
That just hyper-focus on the immigrants instead of, hey, can you get people to build houses? We see that the free market has too much influence and social provisions have been more and more eroded, she said. Veer Gouwen was born and raised in the rural village of Sint Willebrood, where nearly 3 out of every 4 votes went to the Wilders party in 2023. I'm sure that really helped your village. Unlikely. We're more for our own people, she said, outside the clothing store she owns and runs in Sint Willebrood's main street. Of course we grant them more than we grant the foreigners who come in. Wilders conflates the issues of housing shortages that sees people wait for years for a subsidized apartment or priced out of overheated housing markets. He argues that waiting lists are so long because refugees get preferential treatment. That sounds like a straw man argument. That's not real.
Nonsense.
I can't really speak on this subject because I had a house before I moved here because I moved in with a Dutch family. Okay, so I never had to go through this issue. I was just like, you already live in a house.
Why don't you see to get preferential treatment?
Yeah, to be fair though, I think if Robert, for example, who is a 36-year-old Dutch man, if he wanted to move out of the house with his mom and go live somewhere else, he would be on a wait list for 10 years. Some people for 10 years, a wait list of like, hey, we found a house you can buy. Unless you want to overpay for a house, and by overpay I mean sometimes 100% more than it's worth to get a house. Right? You'll be on a wait list for a long time, and that's not because refugees. Yeah, it's not because refugees are getting preferential treatment. They're all living in hotels. In the UK, they're all living in hotels. Anyways, you increasingly see people coming to the Netherlands because things are getting worse in their own country. But then you'll end up with your own children no longer be able to have a home. I would find that very sad. Oh, well, I'm sorry that you find that so sad. It's kind of a first world problem thing to complain about, don't you think? Oh no, I have to live with my mom deep into my 40s because I can't get a house. Meanwhile, people don't have a house because it got bombed into smithereens. Yeah. But, darn, I can't get my own house and live by myself. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I always like the clickbait articles that say, so-and-so had to give up in their dream of being an NBA player. And I'm like, tough shit. Most people don't even have that. Most people have that dream give up. I don't give a shit if they gave up on it. It ain't my fucking problem. Do something else with your life. Not everybody can be.
But the fact that she's like, I find it sad. You know, nobody's gonna die if they can't get their own house. I mean, there might be people dying on the street. I don't know the numbers on that, but you know, they can't have their own children in their own home. Very sad. Okay, that's all you gotta say. It's very sad. The official Dutch government statistics office say that the overall migration last year was down by 19,000 from the previous year to 316,000. That's just people migrating to the country. Not all of those people are being accepted into the country. Some of those people go somewhere else.
This is all about the election, isn't it?
It's very about the election. In the nation of 18 million, including people whose asylum applications were accepted, around 40% came from Europe. You know, the European Union that you're in, which means people can come freely into the country and work here. And almost half from the rest of the world. That's including Africa, Asia, America.
Did you say Europe? Not every country's in the European Union in Europe, right? So it could be just non-EU countries.
Yeah, that's true.
Correct.
But they're probably actually just from... The thing is, he's running on the platform of anti-Islam. So, of course, you're going to say there's no Islamic people in Europe. So you're going to... Let's not act like this isn't racialized, right? When they say anti-Islam, they mean brown people from Africa or Syria, you know, those people. I don't want those people in my country. If it was an Islamic person from freaking Poland, there was a thing about Polish people. Let's not talk about Polish people. The Mexicans of Europe is what I call them. Let's finish this story so I can stop talking.
Yes, finish it, please. Yeah.
About 1 in 10 were Dutch nationals returning from overseas. So these are the people who migrated from overseas back to the country they were born in. And 10% of the 1 in 10. 1 in 10, I don't know that statistic. The government says that municipalities have other options for housing refugees, not just social accommodation. The Dutch Refugee Council rejects Wilders' argument that people granted protection visa to live in the Netherlands are the cause of the housing crisis, saying there are simply not enough houses being built. I agree with that. Bjorn de Jonge, professor of the far-right extremism at the University of Tübingen in Germany, says Wilders has been super successful at politicizing immigration as a cultural threat to the homogeneity of the Netherlands. The homogeneity of the Netherlands doesn't exist. Until 2016, they celebrated multiculturalism. Just saying. The Netherlands has never been a homogenous country. Keeping the issue high on the political agenda really helps to explain why the PVV is so successful, she added. De Jonge said that while support for the Wilders remains high, voters could still punish him at the ballot box for failing to deliver on his promises after the 2020 election. Hamzat said she is optimistic that the election will bring a change of political direction and will be remaining in her adopted homeland regardless of the outcome. It's my life and my future, she said. My commitment is here in the Netherlands. I completely agree with that. That's why I moved here. I'm committed to the Netherlands myself. Hello?
What?
You're on camera.
Stretching. Joke. You're looking for a joke. So the elections are next Tuesday?
Yeah, Wednesday, 29th.
Cool. Well, here in the United States, I'll be waiting for the other wooden shoe to drop. That's the only just joke. Come on.
The other clog to drop.
Yes, we worked the wooden shoe.
I mean, if somebody hasn't just let the clog drop, it's been Wilders every time he's been elected. So I don't know why they keep electing this guy. He's just useless.
No, the other shoe to drop is just a metaphor for this thing to finally finish. It's not necessarily a bad news.